I had been in Crestmere for 40 minutes when my wolf developed opinions about a woman selling fortunes from a canvas stall beside the river. This was not, I want to be clear, how I expected the day to go. I had ridden into the market in plain travel clothes, a dark wool riding coat, no sigil, no crest, Aldrich beside me and under strict orders to use neither my name nor my title. We were passing through on the way back from a border consult with the Vainic Packlands, which had taken 3 weeks longer than it should have and left me in a mood that I was doing my best not to inflict on anyone. Crestmere Market was a practical stop. We needed provisions. We did not need complications. The market was loud and warm and smelled of smoked fish, river water, and the particular variety of chaos that sets in when a trading city reaches mid-season. Too many people, too many stalls, not enough space between them, and the consistent cheerful noise of everyone trying to sell something to everyone else simultaneously. My wolf, who is generally indifferent to crowds, settled as we walked in. I noticed this without remarking on it. Sometimes a market smells like food, and that is all the wolf is interested in. Then he pulled me left. Not violently. He never does anything violently that he can do quietly instead, which is a quality I respect in him even when I find it inconvenient. He simply reoriented, the way he does when he has decided something, and I followed, because 41 years of sharing a body with the same wolf has taught me that arguing is possible but generally fruitless. We went left along the river stalls, past a canvas hung with dried herbs, past a man selling what he claimed were navigational charts, but which appeared to have been drawn by someone who had heard rivers described and was doing their best, and then we stopped. The stall was small. The canvas over it was river green and had been patched in 2 places with a slightly different shade of green, which gave it the cheerful look of something repaired by someone who considered function more pressing than appearance. A small painted sign at the corner said, Myra's Fortunes. PALMS water reading, accurate or your coin back. The woman behind the low table was not reading a fortune at that moment. She was eating a piece of bread and reading a small, badly bound book with the focused expression of someone who had removed themselves mentally from the market entirely and was currently somewhere much more interesting. She did not look up when we arrived. My wolf sat down. I looked at him, he looked at the stall, I looked at the stall. The woman turned a page. We are buying provisions, I told him quietly, in the tone I reserve for conversations I know will accomplish nothing. He lay down on the cobbles in front of the stall, with the settled finality of an animal who has completed his analysis and reached a conclusion. I stood there for a moment, accepted that the provisions would wait, and sat down at the table. She looked up. She had dark eyes, the kind that assess quickly, and she looked at me the way a person looks at a stranger when they are trying to place what category of person they are dealing with and have not yet decided. She took in the plain wool coat, the lack of sigil, the fact that I was sitting down without asking permission, and then she looked at my wolf lying across the cobblestones and her expression shifted into something that was, without any question, deeply amused. Your wolf sat himself down, she said. He did. Is he going to be a problem for the foot traffic? He is very rarely a problem, I said, which was entirely true in the sense that he is never a problem for anyone I want him to be a problem for. He'll move when he's ready. She looked at him for another moment, assessing, not afraid, which I noted without knowing why I noted it. And then she closed her book and set it to one side and folded her hands on the table with the air of someone resuming work. Palm, she said, cards, water reading takes longer and costs more. Palm, I said, because I had sat down and now I was committed. She held out her hand. I put my palm in it. She looked at it with a kind of professionally interested expression, the way a tradesperson looks at something they know how to read. Her fingers were warm. The market noise went on around us. My wolf made no sound at all. You've carried a heavy thing for a long time, she said, not looking up from my palm. Something that you did not choose but accepted because it was yours to carry. You carry it well. You're not looking for someone to tell you it's going to get lighter. You already know the weight and it doesn't frighten you. I said nothing. Your wolf is healthy, she said, and I could hear the slight shift in her voice as she moved from the things she was reading to the things she was filling in. Strong, old soul in him, the kind of wolf who has been with the same person for a long time and has developed something like preferences. She glanced up. Particular preferences. He has opinions, I agreed. About people. About most things. Good. She looked back at my palm, traced a line with one finger in a way that was probably theatrically meaningful and was not, I was fairly certain, actually reading anything. He's going to choose someone before the next moon. I waited. A market girl, she said. The corner of her mouth moved, not quite a smile, but the origin of one. Stubborn, terrible at bowing. His timing is going to be very inconvenient for everyone involved. I looked at her. She looked at me, and now the smile was there, slight and warm and completely unrepentant. Do you always make up the specific details? I asked. Do I look like a real seer to you? You look like someone who makes things up and then charges for them. I charge for the entertainment, she said pleasantly, and the entertainment is honest. I'm not going to tell you you're about to inherit a fortune. You look like a man who already has one and isn't sure whether to find it useful or annoying. I'm going to tell you the thing that seems true and interesting, and that I'm fairly certain I can get away with, and you're going to pay me whatever you think it's worth and go away having had an experience. This is a fair market transaction. I found, to my slight surprise, that I had nothing to argue with in that. I paid her what it was worth, which was more than the posted rate and less than I would have paid without argument, and she took it with the expression of someone who considers this an entirely satisfactory outcome. I stood up. I looked at my wolf. He looked at her stall. Come on, I said. He stood up slowly, with the air of something that is moving under protest. We walked back toward the provisions market. I did not look back. Aldrich caught up with me between the herb stall and the navigational charts. What was that? He said. A fortune, I said. She told me my wolf is going to choose a market girl before the next moon. Aldrich looked at my wolf. My wolf looked at the middle distance. Is she right? Aldrich asked. She was making it up, I said. My wolf sneezed, which he does sometimes when he finds me unconvincing. We bought provisions. We rode north. I did not think about the fortune-teller with the patched green canvas and the badly bound book, and the way she had said stubborn, terrible at bowing with the particular tone of someone describing something she found genuinely entertaining. I did not think about it at all, in the focused and deliberate way that one does not think about something when one has decided not to. We made camp 12 miles north of Cressmere. I slept. My wolf did not. He was back in the morning. I knew it before I woke fully because the weight that should have been against my back was absent, and the bond was stretched in a way it gets when he is physically nearby, but doing something I am not part of. I sat up. Aldrich was at the fire. My wolf was not in camp. He went back in the night, Aldrich said, not looking up from the fire with the expression of someone trying very hard not to have an opinion about this. Back where? I said, knowing the answer. South, Aldrich said. I sat with this. Did he? I began. He was back by sunrise, Aldrich said. He brought something. I looked. Folded at the edge of the camp, neat as a message, was a length of river green canvas with 2 patches of a slightly different shade. My wolf was sitting beside it, looking profoundly satisfied. I looked at the canvas. I looked at my wolf. I thought about the woman who would arrive at her stall this morning, find her roof missing, and have to work out what on earth had happened to it. Give it back to him, Aldrich said. He'll take it back. He stole her stall covering, I said. He brought her a gift, Aldrich said, and chose poorly apparently. My wolf tilted his head in a way that suggested he had chosen very deliberately and considered the execution acceptable. "Take it back," I told him. He did not take it back. He lay down on the canvas. I returned to Cressmere personally, carrying the canvas, with the expression of a man who is not going to explain this. She was there when I arrived, which I had expected. What I had not expected was that she was arguing cheerfully with the stall keeper 2 doors down about who was responsible for the early morning disturbance, and that she stopped in mid-sentence when she saw me coming with her canvas under my arm, and stood very still for one moment before her expression did something complicated, and then resolved into something I could only describe as deeply delighted. "He stole it," I said. "I know," she said. "My neighbor saw him. She said a large silver wolf was very carefully removing your roof and seemed very pleased about it." I said, "That's not possible," she said, "and yet." "He thought it was a gift," I said. "He was wrong about the direction." "He was going to give me a gift," she said. "He was going to give you your own canvas," I said, "which is not how gifts work." "It's a little how gifts work," she said. "The thought." "Please don't finish that sentence charitably," I said. "He stole your stall covering." She took the canvas from me, looking at it. Her fingers ran over the patches, and she was smiling in the way people smile when they find something genuinely funny and are not trying to be polite about it. "Did you ride 12 miles back to return stolen property?" she said, "on behalf of your wolf?" "I did." "And is your wolf going to do it again?" I looked at my wolf, who had followed me back and was sitting at a respectful distance from the stall with the expression of someone who considers the matter still very much open. "Probably not the canvas specifically," I said. She looked at the wolf. The wolf looked at her. She made a small sound that was not quite a laugh but was adjacent to one. "Put the canvas back up," she said, not to me but to the wolf, in the straightforward tone of someone giving an instruction they expect to be followed. My wolf stood up, picked up the edge of the canvas with extreme gentleness, and walked it to the stall frame. We both watched him. "He listens better than most people I deal with," she said. "He does," I agreed. "That's part of the problem." She looked at me sidelong. I was aware that we were standing approximately 2 feet apart in a busy market, and that my wolf was rearranging her stall covering with an attention to detail that I had genuinely not known he possessed. "You don't have to stay," she said. "You returned the canvas. That's the whole errand done." "I know," I said. I did not leave. We stood there in the pleasant noise of the market while my wolf finished with the canvas and sat back down in front of the stall with the settled look of a job well done. And Myra looked at her newly restored stall, and then looked at me with an expression that was trying to be neutral and not entirely succeeding. "Would you like a fortune?" she said, "on account of the trouble?" "I already had one." "You could have another. They're not consistent." "That's part of the experience." I found that I sat down again. She sat across from me. She did not hold out her hand this time. She just looked at me for a moment in a way that was slightly different from the professional assessment of the day before. Less catalog, more consideration. "You came back," she said. "My wolf." "Your wolf," she said, "was going to find a way to make it someone's problem whether you helped or not. You didn't have to be the one to carry the canvas back." She looked at me. You wanted to see what she'd say. I said nothing. "That's not a fortune," she said. "That's just a thing I notice." She was right. I did not confirm it. She did not need confirmation. The market moved around us. Aldrich, I was aware, was standing at a reasonable distance with the expression of a man who has decided that whatever this is, he is not going to have opinions about it until he has to. My wolf was in front of the stall again, not lying down this time, sitting with the precise posture he uses when he is paying close attention to something. I stayed until midday. This was not planned. She was between customers, and we talked about the river and about Cressmere's trade season, and about a book she was reading that had been written 300 years ago by a man who had very strong opinions about river navigation and approximately no actual experience of rivers. I told her 2 of those opinions were correct, from the experience of someone who had navigated that particular river many times. She looked at me with the quick assessing expression. "You know the Aldrin Stretch," she said. "I've traveled it," I said carefully. "The northern bank or the southern?" "Both," I said, "at various times." She accepted this without pressing and went back to the river navigation errors, and I found, in the space of approximately 40 minutes, that she was sharper than the fortune-telling suggested and funnier than I had expected and entirely comfortable with silence, in a way that most people are not comfortable with silence. She filled it when she had something to say and left it alone when she didn't, and I found this restful in a way I had not expected to find anything in a Cressmere market stall. I left at midday. I told myself this was because we had provisions to move and a schedule to keep. My wolf went back that night. I found out about the fish the following morning. He had brought her a fish, alive, in the night. The fish had been placed, still breathing, inside a small wooden water bucket that she kept beside the stall frame, and the fish was apparently still alive in the morning, and she had stood for some time looking at it before eventually returning it to the river because she was not, she would later tell me, a fishing household and did not know what to do with a live fish at dawn. The stall keeper who had seen the canvas incident confirmed, with some satisfaction, that yes, the wolf had been back. Yes, it had been carrying a fish, and it had been very deliberate about the placement, the way someone is deliberate when they are very sure about what they are doing and want the recipient to understand that this is intentional and not an accident. I had this information from Aldrich, who had it from his contact in the city provisioning office, who had heard it from the river stall neighbor. I sat with it over the morning fire. "He's courting her," Aldrich said. He had decided to have an opinion after all. "The wolf is courting her." "He's leaving her things," I said. "That's courting," Aldrich said, "for a wolf." "That's exactly what that is." I thought about Myra returning a live fish to the river at dawn, and found that something in the region of my chest was doing something I was not going to name. "We need to go back," I said. "To retrieve the fish," Aldrich said. "The fish is already in the river." "To retrieve whatever he leaves next," Aldrich amended. We went back. We were too late for the fish retrieval, but in time to see the aftermath, which was Myra at her stall looking at a small carved wooden token that had been left on her table overnight, and which was, I recognized immediately, a piece of Ardenvale pine carved into the shape of the moon. It was a joining token. Every pack in the Northern Territories knew what an Ardenvale joining token looked like. The pine, the crescent, the specific style of the carving, they were part of treaty documentation, part of ceremonial records, part of 300 years of Northern pack history. I stood very still. Myra was turning the token over in her hands with the expression of someone who finds it beautiful and has no idea what it means. "Good morning," she said, looking up and seeing me, and then she looked at my wolf, who had arrived at her stall already and was sitting in his customary position. "He left this last night." "I see that," I said. "It's beautiful. It looks old." "It is old," I said. "It's from the Northern packs." "A traveler's token," she said. "Something like that," I said, and hated myself slightly for the evasion, but I was not ready. I was not entirely sure what I was not ready for, only that the morning felt very close and very specific, and that the carved moon in her hands was something I needed a moment with before I named it. "Is it valuable?" she said, with the practical tone of someone who knows the difference between sentiment and market worth. "To the right person," I said. She set it down on the table between us and looked at me. "Who are you?" she said. Not accusatory, genuinely curious, the way she'd been curious about the navigation book and the river and everything else she found interesting. I told her my name, only my name, Edrin. She nodded. Myra. She had already told me, but she said it again with the gravity of a formal introduction, and I found myself wanting to smile, which was not something that happened to me frequently in formal contexts. "And what is Edrin doing in Crestmere?" she said. "For the third time in 4 days, returning things his wolf has stolen or left." "Managing a situation," I said. "Is the wolf frequently a situation?" "He has never previously been a situation of this specific type," I said honestly. She looked at the wolf. The wolf looked at her with the patient, purposeful expression he uses when he considers the conversation to be proceeding adequately, but would like everyone to move along. "He's going to keep coming back, isn't he?" she said. "I think so," I said. "And you'll keep coming with him." I said nothing. This was, I recognized, an answer. The chicken was, by any measure, the climax of the campaign. It arrived on the 5th day. Or rather, I arrived on the 5th day to find the market in a state of elevated incident around Myra's stall, which had gathered a small crowd and a significant amount of noise. The chicken was alive, healthy, and extremely unhappy about being inside a market stall. My wolf was sitting outside the stall with the expression of someone who has completed a delivery and considers the recipient's reaction to be their own affair. Myra was attempting to convince the chicken to stop and was not succeeding, because the chicken had its own opinions about the situation and was expressing them at volume. I walked through the crowd, took the chicken gently but firmly, and handed it to the nearest person who looked like they might have an opinion about chickens. The person did have such an opinion and went away with it. The crowd dispersed. Myra stood in the middle of her stall with her hair slightly disordered, and her arms crossed, and looked at my wolf with the expression of someone who is trying very hard to be serious. "A chicken," she said. The wolf tilted his head. "A live chicken," she said, "in my stall." The wolf made a small sound that was, in its way, explanatory. "I don't know what that means," she said. "He thought it was useful," I said. "He's not wrong about the value, he's wrong about the context." She turned to look at me. I looked back at her. The market was recovering around us, the crowd already moving on to other entertainment, and we were standing in her stall in the late afternoon light, and there was something about the way the light came through the patched green canvas, and the way she was looking at me, still exasperated, still laughing despite herself, that made the bond, which had been doing something quiet and persistent for 5 days, go very suddenly and very absolutely still. Not still like silence, still like the moment before something speaks. My wolf lay down across the entrance to the stall. Not in front of it, across it, fully, sprawled with deliberate thoroughness, his head on his paws and his eyes on Myra, in a posture that was unambiguous. We were not leaving. I heard someone from the market try to pass and stop, and then reroute. I heard Aldrich say something quiet to the people who had gathered to watch the wolf do this. I was aware, in a peripheral way, that we were causing an event. I was looking at Myra. She looked at the wolf. She looked at the entrance to her stall, now comprehensively blocked. She looked at me. "He's not going to move, is he?" she said. "No," I said. "You could make him." "I could ask," I said. "He would hear the request, he'd consider it, and then he'd stay where he is." "Because he's decided," she said. "Yes." She sat down behind her table. She looked at the wolf. The wolf looked back at her with the settled patience of someone who has been very clear about what they want and is prepared to wait for as long as it takes. "He decided a while ago, didn't he?" she said. "Before the canvas, before the fish." "I think he decided in the first minute," I said. "He just needed me to come along." She was quiet for a moment. "Edrin," she said. "Yes." "Who are you, actually?" I had been going to tell her. I had been going to tell her for 2 days, and I had not found the right moment, which I recognized as dishonesty toward myself, because I had not been looking for the right moment. I had been looking for the conversation we were having right now, without the weight of a title in it, and now I was out of time. "The Lycan King of Ardenvale," I said. The market noise went on. The wolf did not move. The light through the green canvas was warm and still. She looked at me for a long time. "The Lycan King of Ardenvale," she said. "Yes." "The Northern Hold, 3 days north of here." "Yes." "The wolf," she said slowly, "brought me a joining token from the northern packs." "He did." "Your joining token." "They're not made for anyone specifically," I said, "but yes." She put her hands flat on the table and looked at them for a moment, and I waited, which is the thing I do when there is nothing useful I can add and pressing would be wrong. Then she looked up. "Your wolf," she said, "chose a market girl." "He did." "A market girl who is stubborn," she said. "You have given me no reason to doubt the description." "Terrible at bowing," she said. "I have no evidence either way on that point yet." She stood up. She came around the side of the table and stood in front of me, and she made a bow, formal, deliberate, precisely the kind of bow that someone makes when they are doing the correct motion with absolutely no reverence for the context and full awareness that it is faintly absurd. It was, without question, the worst bow I had ever received from someone doing it correctly. Every angle was right. The spirit was nowhere. The expression on her face when she came back up was so deeply delighted by itself that I stopped trying not to smile. "Terrible," I confirmed. "Word for word," she said. I looked at her, she looked at me. My wolf, from across the entrance to the stall, made a sound that was not a howl but was in the neighborhood of one, the kind of sound he makes when he considers something to have gone correctly. The bond which had been still breathed. Not like a surge, nothing as dramatic as that. Like something settling into its right place, the way a stone fits into the wall it was cut for, the way a river finds a gorge that was shaped for its water. Not sudden. Inevitable. The way the fortune had been inevitable, word for word, from a woman who was making it up. "I have a hold 3 days north," I said. "It is cold in winter and loud in the great halls during the season. And there are approximately 40 wolves who live there, who have been watching me fail to find a mate for 11 years with varying degrees of sympathy." 40 wolves, she said. "They have opinions," I said. "Like him," I looked at my wolf. "Like me, apparently, as of 5 days ago." "And what is the Lycan King's opinion?" she said. "As of 5 days ago." "That my wolf was right," I said. "He usually is. I argued about it this time longer than normal, which is probably why he escalated to a chicken." The wolf sneezed. "He says you're welcome," I said. She laughed, really laughed. Not the contained market laugh of the last 5 days, but something full and genuine and warm. And the sound of it did something to the specific quality of the afternoon that I knew I was going to remember for a long time. My wolf's tail moved once, twice, with the slow satisfaction of something that has been correct all along, and is glad to see it acknowledged. "Myra," I said. "Edrin," she said, "who is also the Lycan King of Ardenvale." "I should have told you sooner." "Yes," she said, "you should have. You were cowardly about it." "I was," I agreed. I wanted to be someone you were talking to, not a title you were managing." She considered this. "That's a good reason," she said. "It's still cowardly." "Both things can be true." "Both things are true," she said. "Edrin." "Yes." "Your wolf is still lying across my entrance." "He is." "My last customers for the day have gone around him." "I noticed." "I'm going to have to close the stall early." "That seems likely." She looked at the wolf. She looked at the carved moon token still sitting on her table. She looked at me with the dark, assessing eyes that had catalogued me that first morning, and were doing something different with the same information now. I've never been to Ardenvale, she said. It's cold in winter, I said. You said. And loud, I said, there are 40 wolves. And the fortune-telling market in Ardenvale, she said. How is it? Thin, I said. The northern packs are suspicious of fortune-tellers. So I'd be the only one. You would. That's terrible for competition, she said. Good for prices. I hadn't thought about it that way, I said. That's because you're not in the fortune-telling business, she said. You're in the business of managing situations. Apparently. And is this situation, she said slowly, managed? I looked at her, really looked at her, the way the wolf had been looking at her since the first minute, with the recognition that does not require explanation because it is not an argument. It is only a truth that has been arrived at from the direction of the heart. And I said, I think it might be just beginning. She was quiet for a moment. I told you his fortune as a joke, she said. That it would choose a market girl. You did. A stubborn one, terrible at bowing. Word for word. And now he has, she said. And now he has, I said. She came and stood beside me, not in front of me, not waiting to be claimed, but beside, as an equal stands beside an equal when they have decided something together. She looked at the wolf and the wolf looked at us, and his tail moved again, slow and sure, the tail motion of something that has been correct for 5 days and is glad to see the humans catching up. Ardenvale, she said. 3 days north, I said. Colder than this, louder than this, 40 wolves who will have opinions about everything. And the Lycan king, she said, who is cowardly about titles, but honest about everything else. I'm working on the cowardice, I said. Good, she said, I'll help. She reached out and picked up the carved moon token from her table and turned it over once in her hands, and then she closed her fingers around it. I'll come see it, she said. Ardenvale, I'm not promising anything else yet. I'm not asking for anything else yet, I said. The wolf asked, I'm just confirming the invitation. She looked at the wolf. Thank you, she said to the wolf, with a gravity that was not entirely joking. For the canvas and the fish and the joining token and the chicken, which I'm choosing to appreciate in spirit. The execution was wrong, but the heart was right. The wolf stood up from across the entrance to the stall and walked to her and put his nose against her hand, very gently, the way he puts his nose against my hand sometimes in the morning when he wants me to know something without words. She stood very still for a moment, and then, slowly, carefully, she laid her hand on his head. The bond settled, all the way down, all the way into the quiet center of it, the way things settle when they have come to where they were always going. He's warm, she said. He is, I said. And very pleased with himself. He's been very pleased with himself for 5 days, I said. He's been right for 5 days. He has earned it. She looked up at me. You've been here 4 of those days, she said. Yes. Managing the situation. Yes. How's that going? Better, I said, than I expected, worse for my schedule, better for most other things. She tilted her head slightly, still with her hand on the wolf's head, still in the warmth of the patched green canvas stall in Crestmere Market at the end of the day, and something about her expression in that moment, the humor in it, the sharpness, the genuine warmth underneath, made the bond not speak so much as simply recognize, the way it had been recognizing since the first morning, one unhurried truth at a time. Better for most other things, she repeated. Yes, I said. Including the fortune, she said. Especially the fortune, I said, word for word, which you made up. I made it up, she confirmed. I was very specific about the stubbornness. You were. And the bowing. Memorably. That, she said, is either a coincidence or something much more interesting. In my experience, I said, in this niche it is never a coincidence. She laughed again. The wolf's tail moved. And that was how it began. Not in a great hall, not with a ceremony or a mark or a public claiming before a bowing pack, but in a patched green canvas stall beside the river in Crestmere, with a live chicken recently removed and a very satisfied wolf between us, and a fortune that had been made up and turned out to be exact. I brought her to Ardenvale 3 weeks later, after she had packed her book and her cards and her painted sign, Myra's Fortunes, accurate or your coin back, and informed me that if the wolves there were going to have opinions about her, she expected the opinions to be respectful. They were. Wolves tend to understand what the wolf has chosen, even before the man has said so. She set up her stall in the Ardenvale market the following spring, the only fortune-teller in 300 miles of Northern Territory, which was, as she had predicted, excellent for prices and thin on competition. The Northern packs were suspicious of fortune-tellers until they weren't, which took approximately 1 season, once the word got out that the Lycan king's wife read palms and was never actually wrong in the ways that mattered. I never did ask her how much of the first fortune she had known. I think she knew some of it. I think she looked at me and at my wolf and at the particular quality of the morning and said the thing that was true, in the way she always says the thing that is true, and dressed it in a joke because she had learned long before Ardenvale that truth is easier when it comes in a form people can approach. I think she understood before I did what the wolf already knew. She has never told me if this is true. When I ask, she looks at the painted sign and smiles. Accurate or your coin back, she says, and no one's ever asked for their coin back. She is right about most things. This, I have come to understand, is not the fortune-telling, it is just her. The fortune-telling is what she uses to say so in a language the market understands. The wolf chose a market girl, stubborn, terrible at bowing exactly as she predicted before the next moon. She came north with him. She argued with 40 wolves and was right often enough that they stopped arguing back, which in the northern packs is the highest form of acceptance. She set up her sign on the Ardenvale market wall, where it has hung for 7 years now. She has never bowed correctly, not once. I have stopped minding. She is the best thing his wolf ever brought me, better than the canvas, better than the fish, considerably better than the chicken. That is the fortune she did not say and I did not need. That he knew first, and she let him, and I came along in time to carry the canvas back and stay for the rest.